Welcome everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the 35th edition of Coffee with Ashish. And today we've got a very special guest with us, Dave Karvat from TrawellTag Cover-More Insurance. But before we get into conversation with Dave, and we were chatting about it before this conversation, Ashish as well, right? That travel insurance in itself is a very interesting category, hugely underpenetrated in the overall ecosystem, especially in the Indian market. And I remember my first encounter. I mean, I growing up, I always thought insurance means life insurance. And when I, you know, was a little old, I realized okay, there is health insurance. But I remember when during my IIT days, when I was 18 or 19, and we went for a backpacking trip in Europe, and one of my friends' passport got stolen, and some of his other valuables also got stolen. And we went to the embassy and the local police station to get some of these proceedings done. And innocuously they said, okay, so where are your insurance documents? And like, we don't have any insurance documents. So that was my first experience with what travel insurance really means and how important it is. And I have countless experiences of friends and family members who have only started looking at insurance in a serious manner after they have actually been allegedly a victim of some of a transaction in the entire ecosystem, whether it's a delayed flight, whether it's a missing baggage or a stolen valuable item. And that's how through experience many of us have realized the importance of insurance in the overall travel procurement process. And as always, I've got a couple of cartoons to capture some of these experiences and how important insurance is, and how from left to right you would see certain instances where you almost always imagine or preempt that you would have taken an insurance for even a niche category of experience which you end up experiencing on your trip. So that's something on a more lighter note. But I mean, on a serious note, as we were talking about, that over last decade or so, a lot of technology companies have also started to, and that's one of the reasons, in fact, in terms of why it is underpenetrated, because many times just close to the travel it was seen as a tick in the box, and many people and many travel agents didn't have underlying technology to distribute it at scale and in a hassle-free manner. There was supposedly a lot of documentation, and it was a very cumbersome process. And over the last decade or so, there have been few companies which have entered into this space, and they have made it a single API which can be integrated into the overall booking engine, and made the distribution and redistribution of travel insurance very seamless. And one of those companies who have been pioneers in streamlining insurance as a business online is TrawellTag, which was founded by our distinguished guest today, Dave Karvat. And he's an inspirational, a young visionary leader. And I'm really amazed to read about your journey, Dave. I always knew on a very cursory note, but before this session, when I was reading more and more about, at what early age, I mean, you started almost when you were 16, and how over the last because I was just reading through that for last 16 years Dave has been working on this, and I said Dave doesn't look that old to me, and for 16 years he's been doing this because he started early, unlike many of us. So that's the true mark of visionary leaders who know at a very early age what they really want to do in their life. So he's a living testament to those kind of thought leaders who know at a very early age precisely how, what their goals are and how they want to convert it into reality. And he laid the foundation of TrawellTag Cover-More when he was 16 years old, 16 years back. And now it's a venture which has really served millions of customers around the world. TrawellTag Cover-More is now part of the larger Zurich insurance group, and it is one of the leading providers of travel insurance to travelers all over the world, with over 4 million Indian travelers alone using the platform, 7,000 satisfied customers in retail, e-commerce, and corporate business as well. And the family roots of the insurance sector of this larger company was started since 1952, and the acquisition of Cover-More Group in 2012 actually made TrawellTag Cover-More overall as one of the largest pure play distributor and the product portfolio of the insurance in around the world. And now, apart from insurance, TrawellTag Cover-More has been adding new products to their portfolio in terms of concierge services, travel assistance, family protection back home when you're traveling on your trips. And it's really inspiring to hear your story, Dave. And I'm sure we'll learn more about you in terms of how your journey started, and it will definitely inspire a lot of young entrepreneurs and startups, which also are a significant part of our audience on this show. So with this, a very warm welcome to you, Dave, to the show. And I'm going to hand it over to Ashish to have a conversation with you while I sit back and enjoy my coffee.
Dave, welcome, and I hope you're enjoying your coffee.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I am.
You know, this travel insurance business, I mean, Karthik mentioned about life insurance in India being a life insurance. I got two significant moments in my life when the importance, or rather the realization of travel insurance hit home. In the late 80s, I used to live and work in the UK. And I promoted an outbound holiday company selling holidays worldwide, including India, etc. So, there was something known as loss of expectation insurance. And I tried to figure out what was this loss of expectation, which really means that if you expected a holiday to go in a certain manner, if it didn't go in the manner that you were insured against the loss of expectation. I said, wow, geez, great. Everybody will come back and say, I didn't get what I did get, because, travel agents were notorious for not having given the expectation. The second part was, I came back to India in the late 90s from the UK, and I set up a JV to market Princess Cruises and P&O Cruises. So great, felt elated that we have a contract to sell these cruises out to India. Those days, it wasn't a rupee payment, so it wasn't so much of a sale. But the first question I got confronted is that, how will you insure your passengers? We are not going to book anybody without a cruise insurance. And I said to myself, well, what's that? So typically speaking, the point I'm trying to make, that travel insurance has gathered fact because there have been imposition of visa regime which said you need to be insured to be able to travel into our country, or something or the other like that has come, rather than travel going. Of course, there have been private, government of India has opened up private companies to come and so on. So how do you see the travel product now maturing going forward, and especially with now COVID coming into play? And then we'll get down to specifics.
Sure. Thanks, Karthik and Ashish, first of all, for having me here. And also, making me and my entire team feel, not like one of those, backbenchers Bollywood dancers, right? So that's what our scene was, or our role was all these years. And
Right.
we've been trying very hard to sneak in and keep coming up the
Right.
lane. But I think, just for the benefit of the viewers, I would like to quickly remind the travel industry in general, in the last 20 years, how it has matured, and where we will see ourselves in the next 20 years, right? So when the first policy that I sold in India was in about 96, 97 when I was in college, and I did it for pocket money. And in those days, there were only government-owned insurance companies, and they would take about 2 days to give one policy. And to the travel agent's surprise, I probably did it in about 4 or 5 hours, and I was still embarrassed with that. And I did that for 6 months odd, and like any other young kid, I wanted to always go abroad for my post-grad. And every time when I said goodbye to the travel agent, he didn't let me go. And the more I thought about it, I realized that there was a huge gap, in demand and supply, and somebody had to fill in that gap. And then that's how the journey began, and that's how we realized that the gap was so large, and just from a service point of view, it was not even a product, it was not even on any other front. Just the service itself was so different, and to get that, so what we did is we right from hiring pizza delivery boys to deliver policies in less than 60 minutes and things like that. Markets really started taking off in 2001 when the global large insurers came to India, and they opened up the gates for doing transactions easily. They went out to every travel agent, started offering them online web services where they could issue the policy from their own and from their own office. So that whole reinvention of the model that we had done was completely out of the window, and we needed to sort of rethink and rework on how we're going to add value. And I think from 2001 to 2010, to our surprise, what actually happened is the large insurers who came in, initially they just brought in the technology, they brought in few tweaks in the product, but then they left it there, right? There was no great innovation, customer satisfaction, etc. was not there, and there were two reasons for it, primarily. So one reason was that as they entered, they were small in size, and their focus was on travel. But as a general insurer, when they started growing their overall book, and they started becoming large general insurance company, travel insurance somewhere took a back seat, because our overall market was not very large, and so they just focused on whatever they had to do. Post that, what we started doing is, apart from the product, etc., I think the focus was on how we can be more compassionate towards the travelers. I think that's the key, and how we can move beyond the silver, gold, platinum plan, how we can actually give a choice to a customer of what he wants to buy, and rather than giving him fixed product. We moved away from the whole concept of people asking questions that, will I get a cashless or not when I'm traveling abroad, right? I think that was very obvious by 2005-6, where in our minds cashless was very obvious. So I think we moved a little beyond that and said, because globally people are asking different questions. People are asking questions of, who's my assistance provider? So if something goes wrong, they're not really concerned about who's the underwriter, who's the insurance company, what plan have they chosen. I think the bigger concern is, who's going to really help me when there is a problem? Who is going to evacuate me? Who's going to take me to the right doctor? Who's going to see whether my line of treatment is right or wrong? And those kind of questions, right? And I think slowly we moved, the travel agent's thought process as well as the customer's thought process in those lines, and that's where the markets started to mature. And in 2010-11 was the period when we had covered the length and breadth of the country, and we said, now for us to move to the next level, we need to get a partner who can actually help us build the market and not just the market share. So after a couple of months of search, we got Cover-More, who was based in Australia, and they were pretty much similar to what we were doing, catering to travel agents across the country. And they, again, Australia being a market very similar to India, where the itineraries are very complex, so they rely on a travel agent for most of the things, and they don't go online because it's not point to point. So keeping all these things in mind, we got into a partnership with Cover-More. They entered India, and most people would think that what they would bring with them is technology, processes, products, and all of that, which was true. That did happen. But I think there were two eye-openers which we had never thought about. One was, there was a question asked to us that if somebody is traveling from India and going to the US, and also somebody going from Australia to the US, and in case if both happen to fall sick, they are pretty much going to access the same healthcare, and the costs are going to be similar.
Right.
So then why is it that the premiums that they charge in Australia is probably 8 times more compared to what we charge in India?
Right. Interesting.
So there was one eye opener, and the second was that in India in 2010, only 15% people bought travel insurance who travel abroad, vis-a-vis to 85% of people who bought in Australia, and which is a much matured market and better distribution channels, etc. All of that. But But still, the fact is that when people travel abroad, I think, and we have a wrong concept in India. So people say that if I'm going for 3 days to Dubai or to Thailand, I don't need a travel insurance. But if I go to 7 days to London, I need a travel insurance, which is completely, I'm never able to understand that, thought process. So I think these two things were a big eye opener. And from 2010 till 2020, until last year, the focus was to empower the travel agent, and impart whatever that we understand about what's happening on the travel insurance platform globally. With Cover-More coming in, we try to understand what's happening in the US market, in the UK market, in Australia, and we try to bring in the best practices. We try to bring in the best products. But the most important thing is, we try to understand why are those 85% people not buying travel insurance who travel from India. And because that's where the answer was, in terms of how we can reach out to more and more people. And like I mentioned before, right? I think our main focus was to ensure that we cover maximum people, because we had actually seen a lot of people coming back, didn't have a travel insurance. They have to go and sell their houses, right? Because as you would know, healthcare is very, very expensive, right, especially in the US and UK and other markets. So I think that's been the the evolution of travel insurance in the last 2 decades, and we have now reached somewhere close to about 24-25% penetration level. In the last 10 years, it's gone up by about 10%. Right. And yes, I think this COVID has really thrown some very interesting things for us to understand, for us to consume. And it's going to be a completely different ballgame going forward, I believe.
Right. I'm going to take you up, of course, later on claims and transparency on ground and status and tracking and what role technology is playing. But before I do that, let's stay with the product. So there's an insurance for the outbound traveler. Then the insurance for a domestic market, which is still to evolve as far as India is concerned, because even here, with the internet penetrating, the question is, who's your next billion user for internet? And it is spreading into tier 2, 3, 4, 5 cities. So the domestic market itself is forget about underserved. They don't know the concept of what insurance is, but we'll come back to it. But with the pipeline breaking in the outbound segment first, which is still a 24% kind of a penetration, how do you see it? Are you hurting, or do you think it'll come back to those levels somewhere?
So if you ask me, we are hurting. Absolutely, we are hurting. Everybody's hurting, and the travel industry is in a stage where nobody ever has expected something like this to happen. But I think I think we are extremely positive about how the next 4 or 5 years are going to turn out to be, and there are a couple of reasons for it. I think I am a strong believer that in India, there are only about 1% of the Indian population who actually travel abroad so far. There are 99% people who have never traveled. And the more people that I meet, the more people, whether it's in our office, whether it's friends, whether it's, wherever you go, I think everybody now has an aspiration to go out of the country. I don't think the aspiration is going to go down. So the growth was coming from about 3 or 4 segments in the international travel. One was the millennials, who were opting more to spend their money more on experience rather than material things. Second is more and more students are traveling abroad. The third was the growth in the middle class and the high middle class category, and where people were graduating themselves from Ooty, Shimla to maybe Thailand and Malaysia. And the fourth category was the senior citizen category, which also had a very high growth, because in India, we always had the savings concept. And for so many years, people who are in the age group of 65 and 75 have saved a lot of money. The children have either gone abroad and settled down, and they have told their parents that, look, we don't need any financial support from your side anymore, and we want you to go out and experience and see the world, right? So definitely the fourth category will be the last one to pick up, because of obvious reasons. But the first three category, I don't think anything is going to stop that. And while we speak now, I know a lot of people who are looking at booking trips to, whether it's Maldives or to some neighboring countries where there are not long flight durations, and they are practically COVID free. So people are flying out, people are looking at flying out. What I believe is that there is going to be a pause, and once the pause is done, and if let's say in 2023, when we'll sit back and do an aggregate of 3 years, I think we'll be approximately the same level.
Right.
There, and the question is now, who is going to survive for the next 3 years, and which companies will continue to emerge stronger out of this whole COVID situation? I think that's a bigger question, I believe.
Right. So let's just move away from the outbound traveler and come back to our domestic traveler. And remember, I mentioned about loss of expectations earlier on in the UK, I mentioned to you. Now, here's a domestic traveler. So what is he insured for? If he's buying a ticket, he's insured for passe things like delayed flights, loss of baggage, etc. If he's doing a self-drive holiday, then he's insured against Motor Vehicle Act in terms of accident, etc., etc. But there isn't today a comprehensive insurance policy for a packaged holiday which I could buy, which covers me in totality. How is that going to happen? Will some companies like yours look at initiating covers for domestic traveler?
So Ashish, this is a very good point. And
let me add one more thing while at it.
Yeah.
If you were a air passenger, you waited till your flight was confirmed before you paid and booked your hotel, because you knew if you booked your hotel, you might not get refund if you didn't get your flights. Now, can you imagine for a railway passenger? Now, I'm moving to the bottom of the pyramid for a minute, and these are not automated seats, for example, because even IRCTC doesn't automate its 23 million rail tickets which are used every day pre-COVID. A lot of them are unreserved category, as they call it. So if I'm taking a truly a holiday on the train, I don't know whether I'm going to be getting the ticket in the first place. Forget about paying for the advance against the hotel and everything else which is connected. Isn't that a terrible situation to be in?
Yes, Ashish, absolutely. I think you've hit the right spot. And domestic travel, and especially in today's time, I see there is going to be a big boom in the domestic travel for the next 12 to 18 months, as more and more people look to taking staycations or leisure trips and all different kind of names that people are calling today. But I think the simple thing is that people want to go on a holiday which is within 4 to 5 to 6 hours drive from their home, so that they don't have to take those flights, they don't have to quarantine themselves, they don't have to all those things which are now anyways getting eased out. But I think that's where the whole market's heading now. And I would see more and more these boutique hotels coming up. More and more people are upgrading their service facilities. All of us get emails every day from different hotels that we can arrange for a pick up from here, drop from there. It's fully sanitized, and the whole secured environment feeling, right? And I think that's where things are heading. As far as the combining the insurance along with it is concerned, yes, absolutely. I think we have been trying this very hard for the last, I think, 5-6 years to educate our partners that there are risks involved in people taking domestic trips, and there are products which can address those risks. But today, with this situation, I think there is a need for us to not only give them medical cover or anything of that sort. But I think the most important thing is to understand that since most people are going to take road trips, and while they're taking a road trip, do they have a roadside assistance plan in their policy? If something goes wrong, can somebody help them with one phone call? Like they could be on expressways, etc. If they reach the hotel and let's say the hotel is quarantined and they have to move to another hotel, will it cover them in that plan? So the requirement today is to be more specific rather than a general domestic travel insurance cover.
Mm.
And if you're able to address those specific needs of the customer, um, I think there will be definitely a big uptake. People will want to pay more because they're getting more relevant products. The distribution channels will want to push more because they understand that this is matching. This is also to a large extent de-risking themselves. So the key is again getting the relevant product, I believe.
Right. So I take it, and I hope so, that companies like yours would be talking to your underwriters and partners to start designing covers for the Indian domestic market going forward. While I request that, let's go back to technology for one. And we know today what's happened to internet penetration. But I've always found a great opaqueness in insurance segment. It's been a pure play transaction. You buy a policy online, period. And you don't know after that, like you yourself said, that who's fulfilling on the ground, what is the status of your claim, how far have you reached, there's always that fear factor. When do I see that at the point of booking actually becomes a point of experience, where not only can I book the insurance, I can get all the details online, and I know what's the status tracker, just like a visa tracker, what's the status now, and so on and so forth. Do you see that happening?
So, we are already in some of the markets, more mature markets. We already sell products which are, capable of actually compensating the customer live. So to give you an example, if somebody's at the airport and if let's say he's taking a connecting flight, and if he misses his flight because of a late arrival, I think the system will recognize that he's missed his flight. He will get a message saying that your flight has been missed and we are sorry about that. Would you like to rebook your a flight on the next flight, and can we help you to do that? And second is, here's the compensation of $100 or whatever, which is which you are entitled to on your policy, and this has been credited right now to you, so you can use this while you're at the airport. So these are the products which are already available through our businesses in different markets, and I think this is the future. The future is not about saying I go online and I can buy a travel insurance policy. I think that's passé, right? I think that's taken for granted to a large extent now. What people want is they want an experience. I think some of these delivery apps, some of the wallets. I used to not use them myself much before March, but the experiences that I've been getting or from the delivery apps, from the payment wallets, I think they've been great, and that's where every industry, whether it's insurance, whether it's travel, whether it's any other industry, needs to quickly adapt and move on to that kind of giving that kind of experiences to the customer, where everything is seamless, right? There is no paperwork, there is no questions. There are, it happens all on a chat bot, and everything is cleared, right? So I think that's the future from a technology standpoint. Also from a if there is an emergency and the customer is overseas, he shouldn't be calling somebody saying please help me. I think the moment he's at the hospital, so most of our partners across the globe, the moment you are in the hospital, you have your card on you or you have your policy number on you, and everything happens seamless. So the moment they reach out to us, we understand what the the traveler is what is the issue, what is the problem, how can we solve the problem. We also try to understand whether the facilities provided in that hospital are they good enough, or do we need to evacuate the passenger to some other facility. So I think it's an end-to-end sort of a solution, and I think technology is only an enabler for us to achieve that customer experience rather than becoming the front end. So I think that's where slowly we are heading towards. And as the market matures, as people start understanding, as people start, getting more and more tech savvy with using these kind of different apps, I think we are there globally, and we want to be there in India very soon.
Right. Especially these payment wallets, I see them to be really offering a great customer stickiness, because like you said, I get credited $100 here, I get credited, and before I realize, it's like a refund on the tickets today you book, and you can only use it against goods and services. So suddenly, if I find I have 5,000 automatically credited to me, I
Yes.
am actually creating a stickiness for future consumption.
Yes.
So I think that's a great way for all vendors around you who come into the scheme to be able to create a collective pipeline, be it a car, be it a hotel, be it an airline, be it whatever as a product base.
And and Ashish, also to add, to what he just said, what's happened in the last decade again is, as you keep adding these experiences onto your product, um, people are willing to pay you more. So
Yeah,
what we were charging in 2010, and what we charge today, I think gradually we've moved up. But the customers realize the value of it, and customer wants it more. So the journey of that gap, of 8x premium between India and Australia is slowly going to narrow at some point in time, whether we like it or not.
mm. So, but lastly, do you see the market crowding up
I think
for insurance?
as long as there is, people coming in and adding value, and the focus is on growing the market and not on market share, I think it's great for the industry, because we need more players to grow from the 25% penetration level to 85% penetration level. There is no doubt about it. And we need more players who will bring in different kind of value additions, whether it's technology, whether it's product, whether it's services, whether whatever it is. But and it'll only help us in our journey, in our quest to actually increase the market.
Wonderful. Well, I do hope, Dave, you move away from that Shamik Davers, backbencher, dancer to a main lead role as I pass you back to Karthik to see if he has anything to say. But thank you here for being with Coffee with Ashish today here. It's been interesting.
Yeah.
And we will keep this conversation going.
Yes. Thank you, Ashish.
Thanks, Ashish. And it was great listening to you, Dave. And as I told you, many of our audience members are also young entrepreneurs and startups. So maybe, as a parting note, some words of wisdom for some of the young entrepreneurs who are at this time looking to innovate, especially in the domain of travel insurance. What are some of the ideas they can work on? Or maybe you can share some of the startups if you are already collaborating with some of them, and if somebody's ready at this stage to start to do something, is this the right time to start, or do you think new models would emerge in the near future and they should sort of wait it by and then plan sometime?
Yeah. Thanks, Karthik. So I think this is, if you ask me, this is the best time to start anything. While we speak, we are starting a couple of new verticals, doing something new. And I think I would like to just, mention one thing. I'm not from, I've not gone to the Harvard or Stanford or any other universities. I would have loved to, but travel insurance got me stuck here. I think what's been the success story has been very, very simple. Um, it's we have been very, very compassionate towards our traveler, and everything that we do surrounds surrounds around his benefit. We have been extremely sincere and a high integrity with our partners. So, we will share everything 100% with them, and that's why we can transact and we can do business with anybody for a long period of time, right? And we have continued to do the same with our people internally as well. So our attrition rate for our business and our employees has been less than 1% over the last 20 years.
Wow.
So people, it's like a family here. So we treat, whether it's our team members, whether it's our customer, our partner, um, it's like a family. So if somebody is sick somewhere in some part of the world, our entire team believes that it's one of our family member who's sick there. And what would have we done if it was my father or my mother or my grandfather? And I think we do exactly the same thing for the customer. And I think that changes everything, because at the end of it, it's our business is about compassion. Um, and there is no substitute for hard work, right? So a lot of people say that, okay, TrawellTag Cover-More as a business has grown. We before the lockdown, we would cater to about almost 15,000 people every day. But that journey or that number has come only brick by brick. We have not done this overnight. So it was one step at a time, and we continue to have faith in each other internally as well as outside, and that's what's helped us to grow.
Wow. So I think compassion and sincerity is what are the two takeaways I'm taking from this. And we'll also share, just for the audience reference, we'll share key takeaways from this conversation as well on our social media page, so you can carry forward some of the learnings which have been discussed here. So with this, we are at the end of this edition. Thank you so much, Dave. It was wonderful listening to you, and I'm sure we've all taken away some key learnings from this conversation. And thanks, Ashish, as always. Thank you everyone for joining in, and we'll see you next week with our
Karthik,
next
I
one.
would just like to add
Yeah.
add one of the sign off comments from my side. I think people businesses so far were focused on there was terminology of build to last.
Right.
I think the future is build to adapt.
Yeah.
If you don't adapt, I think even if you want to build to last, you may not last, because you're not adapting to. And this is very, very true in today's situation.
Yeah, nowhere is the Darwin's theory coming more to reality than today.
Yes,
Very
absolutely.
special.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dave, for being here.
Great. Thank you everyone for joining in, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you,
Good
guys.
evening.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.